Hey there, welcome back to another review. This time of the 2018 sequel, Sicario, Day of Soldado. Now, this is a sequel that I was really looking forward to. I was surprised this was even getting a sequel, because I was wondering how that was going to work out. I thought things were summed up pretty well at the end of the first film, but I saw the trailers and I liked them. I liked the fact that it was going to be focusing on Del Toro's character Alejandro and Josh Brolin's character, and that really intrigued me. I know Denny, the original, I mean not the original, but the director of the first film was not going to be involved with it. He was not going to be directing it, but Taylor Sheridan wrote the screenplay. So he wrote the script for the first film, and he also wrote the script for Day of the Soldado. So I was honestly totally on board with it at that point, because Taylor Sheridan's one of the best writers today. Really, he is. He's such a talented writer. He has written a lot of my favorite films lately. I still need to see Hell or High Water. I've heard a lot of good things about that. But him being on board, that meant that I was on board. And it was interesting to revisit this. Like, I completely forgot that Daniel Kaluuya, who played the main lead in Get Out, was in Sicario as Emily Blunt's partner. And I honestly liked his character more than Emily Blunt's character. Emily Blunt is fine. She does an excellent job with the role that she's given. But the role that she's given is essentially a figurehead for the law, for the by-the-book mentality, for the audience's feelings and reactions towards the government and the police's shady way of dealing with the war on drugs. And that's essentially all her character is. She's vulnerable, and so vulnerable to the point that it's almost kind of comical at times, and at the same time it just makes her weak. She's vulnerable, and that's okay, but there's no moments in the film where she stands tall and kicks some ass and takes some names. So all you have is this sheep in the land of the wolves. I thought the quote at the end of Sicario was perfect. Del Toro's character, Alejandro, was, "This is the land of the wolves now. You're a sheep. You will not survive." And he was absolutely dead on. So I don't understand the critics and their opinions on Sicario, the Day of the Soldado being a inferior film when it comes to comparing it to the first, because Emily Blunt's character isn't in it. She's not a strong character. She's not really that interesting. She's not really that intriguing. I think they were probably missing that light among the dark kind of thing. She was the light in the darkness. And Day of the Soldado is pretty much darkness all throughout. But I like that. It's the most compelling characters in Sicario were not Emily Blunt's character. It's not Emily Blunt. It was Alejandro. Alejandro stole the entire film. This vigilante lone wolf who's sent out by the U.S. government to do their dirty work. And he's trying to get revenge for the death of his family. And it's a compelling story. I love the fact that he's not necessarily good, but he's not necessarily evil. He's in between. That's interesting. I like the fact that he's in the middle. He has gray areas, and so does Josh Brolin's character. Emily Blunt didn't have any moments where she really had any gray areas. She didn't try to even attempt to try to really immerse herself in the world of the drug war and the Mexican crime. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Saga, essentially. I'm not necessarily saga, but the underworld. She didn't really try to really delve too deep into that. Like, she just remained a goody two-shoes during all of this and afterwards. So, and I think that's that's the whole point of her character. I get it, but that's a one-off thing. That character, if she showed up in this sequel, she'd stick out like a sore thumb and she wouldn't fit there. What, all of a sudden she's now some hardened badass? That would be unbelievable. I would not buy it for a second. I wouldn't even buy that she would come back and work with Del Toro or Brolin. Del Toro put her at gunpoint and basically was going to kill her if she didn't sign a contract. So I don't think she's coming back. And if she did, it wouldn't make any sense. So I don't get that criticism that this film gets. Emily Blunt isn't in it, so therefore it's bad, or therefore it's not as good as the first film. I also don't get the bullshit of, oh, it came out at the wrong time. I'm so sick and fucking tired of that bullshit. Screenwriters, filmmakers, and everyone involved with any film, they don't have a crystal ball where they can predict what current events or what tragedy or what political thing is going to happen at the time that their film is released. Stop harping on that. Stop giving filmmakers and screenwriters shit over stuff they have no fucking control over. They can't control that. That's not fair. It's not fair to a film or the screenwriter to say your film sucks because it came out at a bad time. Every time is going to be a bad time sometimes for certain movies. That's just how it is. They don't have anything that they can use to predict any of this shit that happens. There's a border controversy going on. This film deals with the border. Doesn't mean it came out at a bad time. It just deals with the border. It's a fucking coincidence. That's all it is. And the other thing I've seen people say, the reason why this is inferior is it's too loaded with machismo, and so it doesn't have Emily Blunt, so therefore, and her female presence, so it's bad because it's focusing more on the male characters. I don't see that as a fucking problem. Also, at the same time, that's a pretty shallow thing to say. Also, there's a female character in this. Yeah, she's a child, but she's a badass and holds her own. No, she's no X-23, but she's not a wimp. Isabela. And then you have Catherine Keener's character, Cynthia, who is essentially the boss. She's giving Josh Brolin orders. So there is a little bit of that presence there. There just isn't the vulnerable presence that Emily Blunt had. So I guess they were missing that. But I like the fact that they doubled down on the machismo or the intensity or the gritty violence. I think that's fine with me. Yeah, so I don't get it. This film's got a lot of shit from people. Negative stereotypes of Mexicans and Muslims. That's another thing. Yeah, because a film that's dealing with the U.S. government and police trying to stop terrorists and drug dealers. There's terrorists. There's Muslim terrorists in it. Wow, such a stereotype. You know, there are Muslims that are terrorists. The film isn't saying that all Muslims are terrorists, okay? It's just saying that particular Muslims that they're dealing with in this movie, they're terrorists. Also, the same thing in the stuff with the Mexican stereotypes. It's not a stereotype when it comes to the events in this film. It happens for real. Okay, there are Mexican American citizens who are groomed by their relatives or gangs or other people in Mexico to be herders, to herd up illegal immigrants and get them to cross the border so that they can go into America. And the people who provide these services, they get a considerable amount of money for it, and these herders, they get a cut as well. This is not something that is unheard of. This actually happens, okay? It's not a stereotype. It actually fucking happens. So are we at the point now where we can't show Mexican drug dealers or young gangbangers or any of this other stuff in movies, or Muslim terrorists, because of PC bullshit now? Oh, it's a stereotype. It's not trying to say that every Mexican and every Muslim is a terrorist or a drug dealer or a gangbanger. It's just dealing with the particular characters in this. They are, because the film's about drugs and terrorism. Okay? It's... Think, McFly. Think. I mean, God. It's so fucking annoying. So, now that I got off... Now that I'm done with that tangent, I just had to. I've had that rant brewing inside me ever since I saw the film. Just so much bullshit when it comes to the bad reviews this film got. If you thought it was too slow, you didn't like the plot, you weren't into it for that reason, fine. But if you thought it was bad because it came out at a bad time, it was full of stereotypes, it missed Emily Blunt, I'm sorry. Those are pretty weak fucking reasons to shit on a film. To shit on this movie, let alone any movie. So, speaking of the film, let's talk about the film. It's directed by Stefano Sollima, and he hadn't really done that much before this, except like a foreign film and a few short films. I mean, really, I couldn't tell that he wasn't that experienced. I thought he did a really excellent job. Not quite on par with Denny's work in the first film, but I mean, it's very hard to top Denny. He's one of the best directors in Hollywood. But he still did a very good job. I felt that he did a equally as good job capturing the gritty realism and the tone of the film. And while the original cinematographer didn't come back, I felt that Darius Wolski did a very good job as well. I thought he did an amazing job, actually, with the cinematography. The film's also gotten shit from some critics for having the same look as the first film. How is that a bad thing? This is a sequel. I like the fact that this film is trying to maintain the same tone and atmosphere as the first did. I like that. I think that's nice. That's a good thing. Oh, it has more of the muted colors in the cinematography. Fine with me. There were night vision shots and thermal shots. Good. Those are really cool in the first film. I'm glad there's more of that in this. I don't see the problem. I really don't. It's written by Taylor Sheridan, and once again, another great script. Oh, another reason why some people hate this is because there's one little Trump jab in it. One jab out of the entire movie, and they hone in on that, and it's like, fuck this movie. I'm like, it's one little thing. It's not like the entire movie is fuck Trump on fucking repeats. That's not really what's going on here. Come on. Like, how petty can you be, for fuck's sake? The score by Hildur Guðnadóttir. I probably fucked up his last name. I don't know how to say it. I'll just say Hildur. I thought it was really spectacular. I really loved the score for this. It was once again dark and brooding and really matched the gritty look and atmosphere of the film. I love the fact that they reused certain cues from the first film in certain scenes in this movie. I thought that was a great choice. Added even more continuity to this film. The editing by Matthew Newman I thought was also really solid. The film's 122 minutes, but it didn't really feel like it dragged that much for me. I thought it went by at a pretty good pace. I felt the story was a little bit more engaging than the first. At times, it did get a bit muddled. I mean, there are only a few problems I have with the film, and Taylor Sheridan, for the most part, his script is great, but I really did have some issues with some of the way things kind of unfolded. You had a very terrifying and harrowing sequence near the beginning of the film where there's a terrorist attack at what is essentially a Target or a Walmart. I don't think it's really a Walmart, but it's basically something like a Target, but they couldn't put any Target branding on it, so they called it something else. And it blows up, and it's horrific. It's intense. There's always casualties, and you see the security camera footage, and it's brutal. And you get the sense that Josh Brolin's character, his character, Matt Graver, is hiring Alejandro, and he's getting his other group of guys to try to find who it was that set up the attack. And so there's that going on, and you realize that there might be a connection to the Mexican drug cartels. So then the U.S. government is like, use extreme force to take these fuckers out. You know, fight fire with fire. And so that's essentially what the major plot line of the film is. Alejandro's hired to start a drug war in Mexico and make it look like it's rival cartels fighting each other. And that culminates in them kidnapping the daughter of the main drug kingpin, Isabela Reyes. But the whole terrorist thing, it doesn't really go anywhere. Like, that's the thing. The terrorist attack in the beginning, you don't really get any... There's really no resolution to that. So that was disappointing. Also, Alejandro is trying to get the main jefe, the guy, I think his last name is Cortez, and he was the boss of the guy who ended up killing his family, that he killed in Sicario. And he didn't get him in this one. So I'm hoping at least there's a third film and Alejandro gets that motherfucker, because he deserves it. You know, just end this chapter in his life, you know, the finally quench his thirst for revenge. But until then, he's still going to be this lone wolf, because that's his whole thing. He's hired by the government to take people out, mainly drug cartels and the heads of these cartels, and he's doing that so he can get closer to the guy who was the one behind the actions. Well, not necessarily behind the actions, but the one who employed the guy who killed his family. So there's a little bit of like that. And then there's a few other sort of moments here and there where you can get a little bit kind of lost in sort of what's kind of going on. The subplot with Miguel and him being groomed to run other legal immigrants across the border isn't the best, but I would say it's better than the subplot in the first film that was just the guy who's a police officer who might be bad but might not be, who has a kid who likes to play soccer. Like, at least this actually connects to the plot in a stronger way, unlike the dad who has a kid who likes to play soccer in the first film. Because it does culminate in the climax of the film. I would say that this film was also better than the first in terms of the action. Both films are not action movies, so if you're going into either of these looking for action, you're going to be disappointed. They're not action films. They're crime dramas. Not action. But, that being said, the little bits of action that are in this, the gunplay, the chases, so all of that, there's definitely more of that here than there was in Sicario. And I think, you know, that's another thing that's in this film's favor and adds to the overall experience and the overall quality of the Day of Soldado. Or Day of the Soldado, sorry. But anyway, I do have to say, though, there is more action, but the action sequences, you pretty much saw most of them in the trailer. So you're not going to see a lot of new action sequences. There's a few here and there, but not much. But I will say that this film is fucking intense. This is crazy intense at times. Especially near the end, when Alejandro's character has a near-death experience. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody, because you got to see it for yourself to really feel it and appreciate it and really have it resonate. It's fucking intense. Trust me. If you felt the first film was intense, this film's just as intense, and at times turns that intensity up even further. So, I really don't know what else to say about the film. I do like the ending as well. It's, some people might look at it as abrupt, but I like it because it really adds more intrigue and just this certain vibe to Alejandro's character that I really like. Where you have this character Miguel, and now he's a Sicario. You know, he's a new young kingpin, and Alejandro pretty much corners him, and he's telling him, you know, I heard you, you know, you want to be a Sicario, huh? All right. And it's this ambiguous ending that I love, because this is how I interpreted it. I interpret it as Alejandro is just warning him. He's letting him know ahead of time. He's like, you want to be Sicario? All right. Okay. I'm going to come for you. I'm not going to tell you when or how, but trust me, I will come for you. And I love that concept that he's going to have this kid be paranoid as fuck for the rest of his life until Alejandro comes and takes him out. I think that's great. Playing psychological war games with this kid. And this kid, he's a little shit. Okay? He deserves this mental torment. So, anyway, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about the film, except I do recommend it. Check it out if you can. If it's not, I don't even know if it's in theaters anymore, because it didn't do that well. I don't know if it did well enough for a sequel. It made had a budget of 35 to 45 million and only made 56.2 million. So, it might not be enough for a sequel, but I really want to see a third one, because I want to see Alejandro get that motherfucking Jefe. I want to see him take him down and just put him in the fucking ground. I really want to see that. But if not, still two really good films, and one of the best sequels I've seen in a while. I like I said before, I do. I like this more than the first. I'm one of the rare people that liked it more. More Del Toro is a good thing. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. Except if I would rate it out of 5 stars, I give it 4.5 out of 5. I don't really have that many issues with it. Some tiny pacing issues, the script issues I mentioned earlier, and that's really about it. So anyway, yeah, that's my review of Sicario, Day of the Soldado, and thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you later. See ya.